Fighting games have come in many different styles by many different developers over the years, but when someone mentions the genre, there are very specific names that come to mind first. Capcom has Street Fighter, and with it Ryu, arguably the most iconic character in fighting game history. Namco Bandai has Tekken, and with it comes the likes of the Mishima family. SNK has a huge variety of different fighting game franchises, and their flagship character is already confirmed to be coming to Smash in November. And finally, Ark Systems Works has Guilty Gear, whose frontrunner is Sol Badguy, Ark Systems' poster child and arguable flagship character. Each of these characters either created the genre they represent, or are the ones who shaped and defined it into what it is today, and each is completely unique from one another. We already have Ryu in Smash Bros., with Terry coming very soon. Heihachi's chances are much higher than you think, but Sol's far more obscure. Whether that's the fact or not, it can't be denied that he would make an excellent Smash Bros. Character, with Ark Systems even going on to say that Sol would definitely be their choice if ever given a chance to have a character in said franchise. But how would he play? How can you translate the fast-paced action of Hyper Fighters into a game like Smash Bros.? Well, this is Sol Badguy for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Sol is an offensive pressure-based character who excels at dealing a ton of raw damage in very short bursts, taking advantage of unique mechanics that are designed to make his offensive options even more deadly should he be willing to spend his resources. While featuring a huge plethora of kill setups and overall being very hard to keep out once he's gotten in, Sol's defensive options are overall very weak, meaning his disadvantage state is very poor and can lead to him being hurt just as bad, if not worse, than he can hurt his opponents. Sol's character basics, much like other fighting game characters in Smash, are all covered by his home franchise, although this goes a little bit more in-depth with Sol than the likes of Ryu and Terry. Sol's walk, run, and jumps are all like the ones he has in Guilty Gear, but to add on to that, the barrier system of Guilty Gear is very similar to the shield system of Smash Bros., meaning that Sol also has an actual block and crouch block animation as well. However, while a lot of Sol's basic movements are much like that of Guilty Gear, they aren't the only part of Guilty Gear's combat system that can make its way to Smash Bros., which leads us into Sol's character gimmick. Much like Ryu's gimmick is to make him feel like he came out of Street Fighter, and Terry's will more than likely be tailored around him feeling like he came out of King of Fighters and/or Fatal Fury, Sol's gimmick is to make him feel like he came out of Guilty Gear. And since this gimmick is comprised of several different parts at once, I'm simply going to title it Guilty Gear. While not as intricate as the likes of Heihachi's character gimmick from my previous video, there's definitely a few specific things that Sol would need to have in order to feel faithful to his Guilty Gear self. The first of which is a staple of Guilty Gear, which in turn is also a series first for a character in Smash, and that's an air dash. By double tapping either forwards or backwards on the control stick while in the air, Sol will perform a dash through the air, the forward dash covering roughly twice the distance of the back dash. On top of that, Sol is capable of attacking after initiating the dash, which can even cancel Sol's momentum should he be using specific aerials and/or holding down on the stick. While these add unique offensive options that are exclusive to Sol, the air dash itself isn't armored, meaning that it can indeed be caught by enemy attack should it be placed poorly. After the air dash comes the fact that Sol is always facing his opponent, much like Ryu and Ken, and possibly Terry, do as well. This comes from the fact that Sol is also from a 2D fighting game series and is always facing his opponent straight on, and the only reason that Heihachi didn't feature the same thing is that there's no automatic turnaround system in arena fighters, be it Tekken, Soul Calibur, or what have you. While using an aerial and/or jumping over your opponent, you will retain your direction until you touch the floor, much like in traditional 2D fighting games. Next up is another staple mechanic of Guilty Gear, and once again, a possible series first if Terry doesn't feature one, and that's a super meter, or as Guilty Gear fans would call it, the tension gauge. The tension gauge is your standard super gauge split into two parts, changing colors depending on how much meter you have accumulated. The player also has several different ways of accumulating meter, be it through dealing damage or, more interestingly, running. Yes, in Guilty Gear, running towards your opponent would make the tension gauge rise, and not just by a bit, as it rose pretty quick. However, it specifically only worked that way when you were moving towards your opponent, encouraging that the player kept up the pressure. Also, in order to encourage the player to stray away from lame and/or keep-away play, another system was implemented into Guilty Gear, which is known as negative penalty. If you stay away from your opponent for a long period of time or your opponent does the same to you, you'll both receive a negative warning, and if you keep refusing to approach, you'll receive a negative penalty, completely draining your tension gauge in the process. In order to keep Guilty Gear's offensive nature intact, the negative penalty is also coming along with the tension gauge to smash, which will start at 5 seconds out of combat. The final part of the Guilty Gear gimmick is Sol's unique spin on move cancelling, as while he too can cancel normals and the special like Ryu, Ken, and more than likely Terry, Sol is also capable of a unique mechanic, normal cancelling. In Guilty Gear you have 4 main attack buttons, broken down into punch, kick, slash, and heavy slash. This is also the order that attacks could be cancelled into each other, with punch cancelling into kick, slash, or heavy slash, kick cancelling into slash or heavy slash, and slash into heavy slash. This could only be done in one direction, as you could not cancel kick into punch or heavy slash into anything unless you use specific mechanics to do so. Sol's moveset is made up of moves that he has used throughout the Guilty Gear series, and much like in Guilty Gear, any punch-based attack can be comboed into a kick-based attack, and so on and so forth. On top of that, any of these attacks can be cancelled into specials, allowing for the player to go from punch to kick to slash to heavy slash to special and still have it be a true combo. Specials could also be cancelled with specific mechanics in order to lead into even bigger combos, but I'll get into this more when we get to Sol's specials. For now, this makes up the gimmick that is Guilty Gear, and it will shape the way Sol's gameplay works in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. As to be expected of a fighting game character, Sol's moveset is comprised of attacks he can use in his home franchise, be it his basic attacks to his iconic special moves. Sol's standard jab combo is his standing punch, which is a quick and short-range jab using the same hand he holds his sword with. This move can be cancelled into itself a total of 5 times, as by the 5th hit, he will have pushed the opponent out of attack range. Also yes, this singular jab is the jab combo, but like Ryu and Ken, all of Sol's grounded attacks have multiple variants depending on how hard you press the button. If you press and hold the button, Sol will instead perform a gut punch with his other arm, which, while slower, has some decent knockback on it and can indeed be cancelled into from his standard jab. Sol's forward tilt is based on his standing slash, which is an arcing slash with his sword, Fire Seal. This attack covers some decent range, and even has a unique move variation depending on how close you are to your opponent. In 2D fighting games, characters have moves that change and are only work when you're very close to or right next to your opponent, which is the same for his forward tilt. This variation of the move is much faster, but covers a lot less range than his regular forward tilt. This attack can cancel into its regular version if you input the attack again right afterward, and can even proceed to cancel into the heavy input version of his forward tilt. The heavy input will have Sol step forward and swipe wide in front of him, which is based on his standing heavy slash. Being a heavy slash move, you can't cancel this move into any other normals, but is more than capable of being cancelled into specials. This is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to Sol's combo capabilities. Sol's up tilt is based on his regular standing kick, which is a high-hitting kick attack that hits twice. This move is a solid anti-air, and as previously mentioned, it can cancel into moves like his forward tilts and be cancelled into from his jab. For a heavy input, Sol will pull off his crouching heavy slash, which is designed to be a launcher and/or kill move depending on percent. In Guilty Gear, this is commonly used to knock opponents up into the air and/or keep them airborne. Also, just like in Guilty Gear, this move is capable of being jump cancelled. Sol's down tilt is based on his crouching kick, which is a simple kick that is designed to open up opponents as, since it's a kick move, it can cancel into other moves, be it crouching or standing. As for the heavy input version, Sol will instead perform his crouching dust, which is a sweeping kick that is designed to trip up opponents in his home franchise and knock opponents up into the air and/or edgeguard in Smash Bros. For his dash attack, Sol will perform his Blitz Shield Charge attack, or Blitz attack for short. This will have Sol rush forward and attack with his shoulder bash, this attack's strength making it an excellent kill move. While it can't be charged, its large hitbox makes it excellent for challenging incoming attacks. For his get-up attack, Sol will use a spinning version of his crouching slash, while his ledge attack is a variation of his forward punch. Sol's smash attacks are based on a few of his more powerful abilities, including a special move, a main Guilty Gear mechanic, and a variation on one of his basic moves. Sol's forward smash is Fafnir, which is a dashing fire punch that sends opponents flying on contact. This move is usually used in Guilty Gear to force people into 50-50 scenarios as the attack is safe on shield, while in Smash, this move's range and damage are offset by its long cooldown. Also, this move doesn't come out immediately regardless of the dash or not, which means that this move can be beat out by jabs. Sol's up smash is Dust, which is a major part of Guilty Gear's combat. In Guilty Gear, Dust is a launcher that can either launch the opponent up into the air or forward, which can lead to big and devastating combos that can become even more devastating with the inclusion of certain mechanics. While it can launch the opponent in multiple directions in his home franchise, it only launches opponents upwards in Smash Bros. And while it can launch his opponents quite the distance, the knockback growth of this move is very poor, meaning it's not meant to be a kill option. Also, you can jump cancel this move in order to possibly lead into air combos. Lastly, Sol's down smash is his forward heavy slash, in which he'll slam his blade into the ground in front of him. This move only hits in front of Sol, but since Sol comes from a franchise where you're not designed to have opponents behind you, it's an understandable downside that other fighting game characters can and will more than likely suffer from. To make up for this downside, however, this attack's damage output is pretty high and can even be used to edgeguard due to its hitbox, including the impact the sword makes on the ground. Sol's aerials are based off of the aerial moves Sol can pull off in Guilty Gear, with one unique attack added in. Neutral air is his Jumping Punch, a short-range punch attack that can be performed multiple times in a row should he be able to land the first punch. Forward air is his Jumping Slash, a wide slash with his sword that can even hit behind him, making it the best aerial to use out of an air dash. Up air is a brand new move, which is visually similar to the uppercut motion Sol will make during Volcanic Viper. This is put in due to the fact that Sol doesn't really have any aerial attacks that hit directly above him. Back air is his Jumping Dust, which is a very powerful attack known for high knockback in Guilty Gear. Lastly, down air is his Aerial Heavy Slash, a double hitting attack with a very long lasting hitbox. Its main use to give Sol a safe landing option as, like in Guilty Gear, there's no landing lag on this move. Sol will grab his opponent with his free hand, and will perform a pummel by kneeing his opponent. Sol's forward throw is based on his basic throw from Guilty Gear, in which he'll headbutt his opponent in order to knock them away. While simple, it packs a punch. Sol's back throw is Wild Throw, a command grab Sol can perform in Guilty Gear. With this, he'll slam the opponent into the ground behind him, causing them to bounce off the floor. Much like in Guilty Gear, this move will more than likely be Sol's combo throw. Sol's down throw is based on one of his special moves, and that's Riot Stamp. With this, Sol will leap backwards, holding onto an invisible wall before he launches forwards, bouncing off the opponent and making them bounce off the floor. Lastly, Sol's up throw is based on Sin's throw, Sin being his canonically adopted son. With this, Sol will flip the opponent up under his sword before sending them flying with a heavy bash from his weapon. Like son, like father figure, right? Sol's specials are his most iconic attacks, as is the case with any character from a well-established fighting game series. And while his moves aren't as iconic as Ryu's or Terry's, Sol's specials bring their own interesting spin on the typical fireball, spin kick, uppercut that you should be more than accustomed to if you're a fan of fighting games. Sol's standard special is Gun Flame, a grounded projectile that has Sol create a wave of fire that will jet along the ground. While it doesn't cover a full screen's worth of range, it moves a bit faster than your average fireball projectile to compensate. On top of that, it has a tall hitbox, allowing it to be used as an anti-air. While strong, this move is quite slow on the recovery, and as a result, it can be baited should it be used carelessly. However, to make up for that and add in an extra hint of counterplay, Sol is also capable of throwing out a feint version of Gunflame. By tapping the B button again before the move starts, Sol will perform the animation of his sword hitting the ground, all without an actual projectile coming out. As soon as the sword hits the ground, Sol is capable of canceling the move into a dash, a jump, or into shield, meaning your opponent will always have to keep this move in mind when approaching Sol from afar. While Gunflame is Sol's iconic projectile, it sadly cannot work in the air, so when the player presses B in the air, the move becomes something completely different, as using B in the air transforms the move into Breaker, a hard-hitting flame kick that jets Sol towards the ground after a brief startup. While visually similar to Falcon Kick in Wizard's Foot, this move is much slower thanks to the wind-up, and hits nearly twice as hard as a result. On top of that, Sol is also armored during the wind-up animation, making this almost like a foot-oriented version of Ganondorf's Warlock Punch. And like Warlock Punch, it leaves Sol wide open for quite some time after he lands, meaning it's not a safe landing option. While Sol has two different moves for his standard special, the craziness doesn't end there, as there's two other moves that Sol can perform while he has at least 2 bars full in his tension gauge. By inputting half circle back, forward, then pressing B, Sol will unleash his iconic super, Tyrant Rave. This double hitting attack would hit just as hard, if not harder than a charged critical hit from Hero, and is one of Sol's strongest tools for closing out stocks. However, while incredibly strong, using up the tension gauge for a super powerful attack with an average range isn't always the best option, as this move will use up 2 bars regardless if it lands or it misses, just like in Guilty Gear. Also, like in Guilty Gear, the world will freeze briefly around Sol as he charges up the move, giving his opponent a clear indication that the attack is coming. While Tyrant Rave is a powerful offensive option, it's not the only super that Sol can perform. No, for once you've reached 100%, inputting quarter circle back twice, then B, Sol will activate Dragon Install, Sol's iconic install super and comeback mechanic, both in Guilty Gear and now in Smash Bros. Upon activating, Sol's appearance will change drastically, and the music itself will also change with a 10-second activation period. Dragon Install will drastically increase Sol's speed, making him nearly twice as fast as he was originally, on top of buffing his special moves, including completely changing one of them. Gunflame, instead of being a wave of fire, will instead be a huge pillar of fire bursting out of the ground, its attack's hitbox being massive and an excellent anti-air option, while Breaker is changed into something else completely, a move exclusive to Dragon Install, known by the abbreviation of PBB. This move can either be used for extra mobility or, if your opponent tries to jump against you, an aerial command grab that can lead to some serious damage. As for buffs to its other specials, Bandit Revolver will gain an additional hit while ascending, hitting for a total of 3 times and roughly 65% more damage, while Bandit Bringer has its knockback nearly doubled, allowing for the move to spike at a much earlier percent than before. Both versions of Volcanic Viper also get a massive upgrade in terms of damage and knockback, allowing for Dragon Install Sol to recover much higher than he ever could before. Canceling DI Volcanic Viper into itself is also a very good way to confirm a kill. Once Dragon Install reaches the end of its duration, Sol will go into a short cooldown animation, which will leave him susceptible to damage for a brief second. It's best to not be up in your opponent's face when this super is about to run out, should you not wish to be punished. Sol's side specials also split into 2 different moves, which move you get depending on how hard you input the attack. These attacks are Bandit Revolver if the attack is input normally, and Bandit Bringer if the attack button is held. Bandit Revolver is a simple flip kick that will throw Sol forward, the attack being able to hit up to 2 times should Sol be close to his opponent. This attack is commonly used in Guilty Gear to catch juggling opponents and or close a combo that has pushed the opponent out of reach. And in Smash Bros, it mostly fits the same purpose on top of also being an extra form of horizontal recovery. The second move, Bandit Bringer, is a lot more destructive in nature. Bandit Bringer in Guilty Gear is designed for hard reads, going in with everything you've got at a time when you believe your opponent has let themselves wide open, and canceling the move can lead into a lot of destructive stuff with the character. In Smash, this move is like Lil Mac's side B on steroids, launching Sol forward before delivering a flaming punch, the force meteor smashing any opponent it hits. The fact that it can meteor smash makes it rather safe for recovery, as any opponent going out after you risks the chance of being spiked into the abyss below. But do keep in mind that Sol cannot recover further after using this move, and must touch the ground before he can use his recovery special again. Speaking of which, Sol's up special is, amazingly, also split into two different moves, with the variation you get determined by if Sol is grounded or not. Sol's recovery special is Volcanic Viper, a flaming uppercut using Sol's sword that will launch both himself and his opponent up into the air. This move's recovery height is dependent on how hard the player inputs the move, with the harder input having Sol fly much higher, much like Ryu's Shoryuken. However, if used on the ground and the player holds the B button, Sol will instead perform a special version of the move, known as Ground Viper. With this, Sol will rush forward along the ground, rapidly dealing damage before launching his opponent up into the air. It's a solid finishing move and is a great way to close a gap, but should it be blocked and or telegraphed, it can be easily punished. Or can it? As has been shown, Sol's specials are not designed for reckless abandon. But in Guilty Gear, there was a way to not only help reposition yourself after a poor move placement, it also have a way to make your combos become even more destructive than they normally be alone. That fabled ability is Sol's Down Special, simply known as Roman Cancel. In Guilty Gear, Roman Canceling is an ability that uses the tension gauge by pressing a pair of buttons simultaneously. With this, Sol will flash with energy, causing the world to stop around him and instantly stopping the animation of whatever move he was performing, allowing him to set up his opponents or get out of a dangerous situation. If you use a Roman Cancel to cancel a move's animation, the flash is yellow and it only takes 1 bar off the tension gauge. However, canceling an animation while actively hitting an opponent will have the flash turn red, and will cost 2 bars instead. This is why using up the tension gauge on Sol's supers isn't the most ideal use of his resources, as Roman Canceling works the exact same in Smash as it does in Guilty Gear. The world will slow down dramatically around Sol after he activates this ability, allowing him a full 1.5 seconds of time to either set up another attack or get to safety. If he's at a full gauge, Sol can use this up to twice in a single combo, and canceling Volcanic Viper into an air combo, into Volcanic Viper, into Roman Cancel, into another Volcanic Viper is a great way to kill someone. Of course, while strong, this move's usability is entirely dependent on how much Sol has filled his tension gauge, as should it be empty, this move will simply do nothing. Finally, for Sol's final smash, there's only one move that could ever be his finishing move, as Guilty Gear itself is infamous for its insta-kill system, allowing the player to set up an attack that will guarantee a victory should it land, and with Sol, that move is Branding Breach. Upon activating the move, Sol will pose as his body is surrounded by wisps of glowing red energy, all before rushing forward with a Fafnir. Upon making contact, a cinematic final smash will play out, Sol charging up his sword before rushing into his opponent, slamming his blade into them and unleashing a huge blast of power out their back. This move can only hit one person at a time, but it makes up for it in the fact that this move will instantly KO anyone it comes into contact with, hence the whole insta-kill motif. Should Sol win the match with his final smash, he'll get a victory screen that's straight out of Guilty Gear Xrd, including a victory quote from the announcer.
Sol, win, straight.
Sol has had a lot of themes over the years, but I think there's no better option for a victory theme than the beginning and ending riffs of Guilty Gear Xrd's insta-kill theme, as it perfectly captures the vibe of Guilty Gear as a whole. Sol's victory poses all come straight out of Guilty Gear Xrd, including his standard victory animation, his round victory, and his standard entrance animation. Also, as previously mentioned, Sol gets an extra victory animation should he win using his final smash. Sol's also got a variety of taunts to choose from, as he has 4 different taunts in Guilty Gear Xrd. For Smash, however, he's using his iconic thumbs down, which has also been used as a victory animation in Guilty Gear before. A pose in which he gives an up yours to his opponent while taunting them to approach, while the last one is, surprisingly, a thumbs up followed by a cheeky little smile. Sol's colors are based on colors he has had throughout the Guilty Gear series, which are mostly references to other characters in the franchise. Color number 1 is traditional Sol, featuring his standard white and red colors with brown hair. Color number 2 is a reference to Kai and Sin Kisk, one being Sol's rival, the other being Sol's adoptive son. This outfit changes Sol's colors to blue and white while giving him blonde hair. Color number 3 is a reference to fellow Guilty Gear character Milia Rage, making Sol's outfit yellow and black while giving him blonde hair. Color number 4 is a reference to Zato 1/Eddie, making Sol's hair white while giving him a mostly black outfit. Color number 5 is a reference to Ramlethal Valentine, darkening Sol's skin while giving him white hair and a white/green outfit. Color number 6 is a reference to one of Sol's colors from Guilty Gear Xrd, as are the last 2. This one darkening the red in his outfit while giving him white hair. Color number 7 gives Sol red hair while making his outfit orange and black, and color number 8 gives Sol black hair and a black and blue outfit. Lastly, when Kirby absorbs Sol, he'll gain a wig of Sol's hair along with his iconic headband, this hat giving Kirby access to Gunflame, Gunflame Feint, and Breaka respectively. And that's Sol Badguy for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. While Ark Systems Works isn't a huge company, the impact they've had on the fighting game industry has been very noticeable, for better or for worse. As a result, Sol is a character that's pretty iconic amongst fighting game players, but it's unknown if that's enough to really make him a character that's big enough to be in Smash Bros., as fighting games as a whole are pretty niche next to the likes of RPGs and shooters. Only time will tell, but I sure as hell would love a chance to not only see a Guilty Gear character in Smash, but hear Guilty Gear music in Smash as well. Heaven or hell, all that matters is that we rock. If you like what you saw, feel free to like and subscribe, as there will be more of these videos coming in the near future, and I promise that they'll be coming at a much quicker pace from here on out. What's next? Follow me on Twitter to find out. For now, take care, and have a good one.